Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. Hopefully your DFS Sunday has been profitable up to this point, but if not, never fear, Sunday Night Football is here to give you a second chance. I wanted to mention real quick to my loyal subscribers and viewers that I apologize that I was unable to provide my usual weekly content due to some family matters that I needed to take care of. I anticipate being able to provide my usual top-notch research and strategy for the final 2 weeks of the NFL season, as well as information into the playoff season. Now to the game at hand. The 9-4 Buffalo Bills visit the 8-5 Pittsburgh Steelers in a game with major playoff implications, with the Bills trying to remain one game behind the AFC East leading New England Patriots. The Steelers are trying to hold down a wild card spot as they come into this week's game as the number 6 seed in the AFC, and the Bills are the number 5 seed. Pittsburgh comes into the game as a 1-point favorite with a game total of 37 points. Now, before we unpack tonight's game, I want to share the numbers that are fantasy relevant to the Showdown contest itself. Up to and including this past Thursday night showdown between the Ravens and Jets, there have been 104 Showdown contests during the 2019 NFL season. These showdowns have an average winning score of 132.54 with an average winning captain score of 42.65. Since the captain score represents 32% of the average winning score, I focus a lot of attention to the captain's position. With that being said, the captain's position breaks down as follows. The underdog running back has been the captain for the winning lineup more than any other position, 21 times for 20%. The favorite quarterback, 19 times for 18%. Favored wide receiver has been in the captain spot for the winning lineup 18 times for 17%. Underdog wide receiver, 14 times for 13%. The favored running back has been the captain in the winning lineup 13 times for 13%. The underdog quarterback, 7 times for 7%. The favorite defensive special teams has been the captain in the winning lineup 6 times for 6%. The underdog kicker has been the captain in the winning lineup 2 times for 2%. The favored tight end has been the captain in the winning lineup 2 times for 2%. The underdog tight end has been the captain in the winning lineup 1 time for 1%. And the underdog defensive special team has been the captain in the winning lineup 1 time for 1%. Now, I also combined these, whether it was, they were the favorite or the underdog, and it breaks down as follows. Running backs combined appear in the captain's position more than any other position this year, 34 out of the 104 showdown contests for 33%. Wide receivers are close behind 32 times for 31%. Quarterbacks, 26 times for 25%. All others represent 12 times for 12%. And I also look at the overall won-loss record of the captain in the winning lineup, and it breaks down as follows. Running backs in the captain spot, their teams have a combined record of 25-8, which is a winning percentage of 76%. Wide receivers, 18-14 for a winning percentage of 56%. Quarterbacks are 19-7 for a winning percentage of 73%. Now, do these numbers unlock the mystery winning lineup for tonight's Bills-Steelers game? Absolutely not. But what they do give us is some things that can help give us an edge, which in the end, that's all we're looking for is an edge. And I use these numbers as a part of my overall process in building lineups. Some main takeaways from those numbers, in case I talk too fast or you didn't catch. Underdog running backs have appeared in the captain's position more than any other position, 20% of the winning lineups. Running backs combined for 1/3 of the winning lineups. The captain for the winning lineup has a win percentage of 69%. That means the captain comes from the winning team 69% of the time. Those are some things you can look at and factor in when you're building your lineups. And as I mentioned, I use this information as a part of my overall process. And the rest of my process is I take a stand. Who do I think is going to win the game? How are they going to win the game? What is the path to victory? The running game, the passing game, their defense. And I factor all that in. And then I find the players that support that game script or that game theory. And then I identify some players that I feel have a path to being the leading scorer, and I build around those And then when I build around those, I also factor in the other team. If I think they're gonna be behind, obviously that's gonna try to that means their passing game's gonna have to probably be involved. And I just build my lineups using all this information. I've never won one of these showdown contests. I've cashed. I would say my cash percentage is 85 to 90% of the time. I believe in my process, and I know that one day I will take one of these contests down. In tonight's game, I'm leaning towards the Bills being able to pull off the win based primarily on the matchups. Pittsburgh will be one-dimensional and probably will want to put the ball in Connor's hand. He's supposed to be back this week. Pittsburgh undrafted rookie quarterback has won 3 games in a row against these teams, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Arizona. Not exactly the same type of defense they're going to face tonight in Buffalo. But in these 3 games, he's only thrown 11, 21, and 19 passes. He's been really efficient. Of those 11, he completed 5 of 11. He's completed 14 of 21, and he completed 16 of 19 with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. So he's really consistent. But if you combine those numbers all together, that's some of the better quarterbacks' statistics for one game. He hasn't really had his feet put to the fire, and definitely those defenses don't match up like the defense that he's going to face tonight. And if Buffalo knows that Buffalo's probably going to come in and say, we want Delvin Duck Hodges to beat us, and stack the line, sell out to stop Connor, and, maybe go one-on-one on the outside and just dare him to beat him. And we don't really know what we're going to get out of him because he hasn't been tested like that, but I think he's going to be tested tonight, and Buffalo's defense is very formidable. As I mentioned, Buffalo's defense is in a way different class compared to the competition that Duck Hodges has faced. They're number 7 versus the quarterback position, number 5 versus the wide receiver position, and number 14 versus the running back position. Now on the other side of the ball, Buffalo's offense is more balanced. They don't have to rely solely on the running game or the passing game. And Pittsburgh's defense is really good too, and that's why this game total is so low, and it's the lowest of this NFL weekend. Pittsburgh is number 4 versus the quarterback, number 7 versus the wide receiver, and number 4 versus the running back. So 2 really good defensive teams, but I'm going to give the edge to Buffalo because they're going to be able to be more balanced on offense. So, with all that being said, I'll let you, hopefully I didn't talk too fast for you. This is the build-up that I'm going to use, that I've been working on with the game script. That I do think it'll be a close game. I do think it'll be low scoring, and but this I'm going to build this way and give Buffalo the edge, even though they're coming in as a really small underdog and a really low game total. That kind of makes you believe in the running games for these teams. So with that being said, I'm going to use Singletary as my captain. He's only 14,100. If you go back to the other captains, Josh Allen, the quarterback for Buffalo, he's 16.8. Pittsburgh's really good on defense, and I like Singletary. He's been getting a lot of carries. We can look right here, and he's been getting some passes out of the backfield. His last few games, he's had 17 rushes against Baltimore for 89 yards, with 8 targets in that game in Baltimore, in a game that was close that they lost. He scored 17.8 fantasy points in that game. Against Dallas, he had 14 carries for 63 yards, 3 receptions for 38 yards, and a touchdown. Against Denver, who's a really good defense, he had 21 carries for 106 yards and 1 reception for 8 yards for 15.4. So he's their main guy, and they're going to try to get the ball to him, through carries and get him involved in the passing game. And his price allows me to build this lineup the way that I like. Next, in the flex position, I am going to have the Buffalo Bills defense. I actually You can make a case for either defense, but I generally go with the defense that I think is going to win the game. So I'm going to go with the Buffalo defense in the flex position. And I'm also going to use Josh Allen, the quarterback from Buffalo. He does have a rushing floor. He can take off, and I like him obviously better than I do Duck Hodges for Pittsburgh. And he's averaging 20.3 fantasy points per game. This will be a really difficult game for him, but I believe he'll make up some of that with his rushing ability as well. I'm going to use the kicker from Pittsburgh. I think they'll stall out, and Boswell's home. They're the favorite, so they actually have a higher implied total, obviously. I don't think they'll win the game, but I do believe they'll get stalled out. I think both kickers are viable tonight. I tend to like to only use one of the four between the two kickers and two defense special teams, two at the most. In this lineup, you'll see here that I'm actually going to use, well, I have the kicker and a defense. So I believe they'll stall out and have to kick some field goals. It's going to be low scoring, and so I don't think you can go wrong really with either field goal kicker. Next, I'm going to have the main piece of the Pittsburgh offense, and we can read right here. I'm pretty sure he listed as questionable for Sunday's game against the Bills, but as expected to play, will likely split snaps and touches with Jalen Samuels and Benny Snell in his return to the lineup. So he's probably going to be on a little bit of a pitch count, but they're in a playoff run, and I don't think they'd be running him out there if he wasn't healthy. He logged full practices Wednesday through Friday, and they say they're going to ease him back in, but I still think he'll get a big volume of the carries, and if they get down on the goal line, I think they'll give them to him. So I want Connor in there based on volume, and that leaves me 5,300 in the last piece of this puzzle. And I have several options. You have Steelers defense. I don't really want to use both defenses because that kind of puts you in the position where you need at least one of them to score a touchdown. They do have nice floors. Steelers 12.5, Buffalo's 8.2. So it's a little risky taking the Buffalo defense. And I'll probably play a few different lineups and switch this around and put the Steelers defense in with the Buffalo kicker and do it like that. But I have 5,300 left, and I wanted to put a target with Josh Allen. And one of Pittsburgh's weaknesses is the middle of the field. And Allen does go to his tight ends quite a bit. So I'm going to use Dawson Knox in there. Now, with this lineup, I think it'll be contrarian because I've left 2,100 on the table. I've seen something recently where the average winning lineup leaves just over $1,000, excuse me, on the table. This is obviously more. I'm only spending 47,900. So it's risky, but I really like this. And this type of game it's really difficult with that low of a game total. And as I said, you could probably take Knox out. And another way to look at this lineup, as I was talking about, is go ahead and use the Steelers defense. Maybe that's what will keep them in the game. Turnover, and then you have 4,900, and you can bring that back with Buffalo's kicker. And you still have, I don't want to use two kickers, and that would leave 4,600. And you could get to actually, Buffalo's real good against the tight end position too. Don't necessarily like to use two running backs, but old man Frank Gore, he doesn't have an injury designation this week, and his game, he still gets some carries. I mean, last week in Baltimore, he only got 4 carries, no targets. He doesn't get too many targets, but up until that point, he was getting 9 carries, 15 carries, 11 carries. It's kind of risky, but you could see him getting down there and letting him pound it in. I think I'll do something that I normally don't do and use both field goal kickers. Now that leaves 900 on the table. So that's another good look at that build. And, using the defense against a team that you have in the captain spot isn't a bad thing. And I have some pieces to the Pittsburgh. I'm really not interested in the Pittsburgh's pass offense at all. I think Buffalo's going to tell, send the message that we want Duck to beat us, and I don't think it's going to work out well with them. They're really good defense. So that's my manual build that I'm working on. Now, as I always do, whether it's main slate building, Showdown, any type of contest I'm in, I have an optimizer that I get from a paid site. I've actually wrote to them and asked them if I could mention their name during my videos. Someone asked me that some time ago, and I'm still waiting to hear back from them. I've sent them a couple emails. But I take the players that I'm interested in. When it's a Showdown contest, I always set it for 100. I want it to give me 150 lineups. And Showdown, I pick 5 or 6 different captains, players that I think have a path to being the highest scoring, and usually throw in one that will be super contrarian, like a field goal kicker or something. And I set the minimum and maximum exposures for those. This week in particular, I did have Singletary set at like 25 to 30%. So he would represent 25 to 30% of my captains out of 150 lineups. And then I had Josh Allen in there and a few others. Pittsburgh defense, Buffalo defense. And I set very few rules because anything can happen during a Showdown contest, and I don't want to affect it too much. I do have a couple rules that I like to use. If I have a captain or a quarterback in the captain's position, I at least want 2 targets in the flex position. So if Allen goes into the captain's position, I want 2 of let's say McKenzie or Beasley or John Brown. I want 2 of those. If I have a wide receiver in the captain, I want his quarterback in the flex. The only way that wide receiver goes off is if that quarterback throws him the ball. And I try to only use, as I mentioned before, 1 of the 4 between the 2 defense special teams and 2 field goal kickers, and 2 at the most. And I let it go. I set the exposures for the flex position, and I let it go. And I always share with you guys the first lineup that was projected. And this is the one that the optimizer gave me tonight. It had Singletary in the captain spot, which would make sense because I affected the minimum maximum exposures, and he was the most as far as exposure and captain. In the flex, it had the Bills defense, which running backs and defense do correlate. It had Josh Allen at quarterback, Boswell, the kicker for Pittsburgh, the running back, Connor, and it also had Hoshka, which is almost identical to the build that I was that I just shared with you guys, except I didn't have the 2 field goal kickers in there. So this really makes sense. Now, this only left 1,300 on the table, but that's more in line with what the average winning lineup is leaving on the table. Like I said, it's just over $1,000 on the table. So that's a really interesting lineup. It makes sense. You have Singletary, who's getting the carries and the passes out of the backfield. Bills defense against a rookie quarterback, undrafted rookie quarterback. And, you have Josh Allen, who provides a nice floor. You got both field goal kickers, and James Conner for the Steelers. And sometimes what I do, and another reason I use that optimizer is because I have my players set just like on the main slate. And what I want to see is I want to see the different randomizations of the players that I like. Because doing it manually, writing it down, you're not going to see all that. And I want to see how the computer mixes and matches them. And it's proved to be profitable for me doing it this way. So there you go. And the whole meaning of this video isn't to give you guys this lineup for you to run out and put it in. You're welcome to. If you stumble into the same contest I'm in and it wins, then we'll be splitting. And I'd rather have something than nothing. But the whole reason for this video is to share with you the numbers that are relevant and show you my process that I've had a lot of success with, and let you make your own decisions with how you want to build. So I want to get this video posted to you guys a couple hours before, at least a couple hours before game time. So I'm going to wrap it up for now. I'm glad to be back this week. I'll be getting back onto the position by position breakdown. I'll be doing the Monday night football showdown video tomorrow between the Colts and the Saints. Should be really interesting. And I want to thank you guys for joining me. I encourage you to please drop any opinions or comments below that you may have. I hope you had a lot of luck today. Please share this video, like it, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and hit that notification bell. My subscriptions have been going up, and my viewers have went up a lot. So if you're not already a subscriber, please do so. You don't have anything to lose. Just give me a chance. I have some really good information. And as I mentioned, I'll be back tomorrow for the Monday Night Football Showdown between the Saints and the Colts. You can also follow me on Twitter at winningabout. Don't forget the injury report tonight. Check it about 7 o'clock. Make sure, you never know. Connor still has a questionable tag, but they're saying that he's scheduled to play. But if something happens during warm-ups and he's out, you don't want a 0 in your showdown lineup. You don't want a 0 in any lineup, but you don't want to start it out with a 0. So, again, thank you for joining me. My name is Ty Patton. This is all about winning daily fantasy sports, and I'll see you guys real soon. Good luck.